Right. So we're gonna get into some of the real meaty topics that are
Yikes.
trending out there. And no matter what your position or your stance is, I think everybody has an opinion about this. And it's this whole student loan forgiveness program that is going on. And we're gonna get into it. So I'm gonna throw it to you. Like, what do you think?
Welcome. This is For Better and Worth.
The podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you grow and build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ericka Young. And we're so glad you're joining us today.
All right, y'all, let's get into it.
Hey, babe. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Glad to be back at it.
Yes. So, how was your day?
My day was good. It was a full work day like usual, but here we are up in the studio.
Studio.
It's funny every time we say that. What show was that on? Was it American Idol or?
Maybe.
It might have been one of the early American Idols where there was an acting. She made her own song, and it was just
Random.
yeah. So whenever we say we're up in the studio, we both have that flashback to I be in the studio.
Anyway,
Right.
we're done there.
Right. So we're gonna get into some of the real meaty topics that are trending out there, and no matter what your position or your stance is, I think everybody has an opinion about this. And it's this whole student loan forgiveness program that is going on. And, we're going to get into it. So I'm going to throw it to you. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, so it's just a lot. First of all, these programs have been around for a long time.
Right. They're not brand new.
No, they are making adjustments to the program so that more people actually qualify, so they're actually getting the forgiveness done. And I think there's a lot of people on both sides of the token, those who are excited about it or thankful for it, and those that are like, well, I didn't get student loan forgiveness, because honestly, those are the positions where people side, and it's a tough cookie. I'm not going to even lie, because I don't think it's an easy one-way answer here, but we're going to talk about it.
Well, because we're talking about, student loans and college, and we're in March Madness, I had to go put on my Arizona gear, go Cats. But, people will listen and be like, well, I thought you were a Michigan fan. I am. Okay. I have a couple teams I root for.
Well, it depends on the season, clearly, because basketball.
But, basketball, I don't even fill out brackets. I just take, my teams against the field.
Right. But, Michigan.
Michigan
is not.
Yeah, they
not
it's
it.
a down year,
Yeah.
R.I.P. Juwan Howard, as far as being coach, he's still alive, but that season is over for him.
Yeah.
But I usually take Michigan, Arizona, Purdue, and IU, and I do well.
Yeah.
But football, it's all go blue. So, but today we talking about basketball, so it's March Madness, and repping for the U of A right now.
Yes, and I think
fortunately, I didn't have any student loans to go there.
Ooh, that's true.
Yes, and that's something we'll get into.
Yes.
We'll talk about that a little bit, because that may be one of the ways you can avoid student loans and not even have to participate in the loan forgiveness program. But
yeah. I would say that, first of all, this is near and dear to us for two reasons. One, we did, in fact, for undergrad, have student loans.
Yes, we did.
And I believe that neither one of us would have been able to complete college without them.
Yeah. And I actually, as I think about this and I thought about this episode, I was like, man, we had student loans, but, God blessed us to be able to pay those loans off. And I also had to realize that when we went to college, the cost of college has skyrocketed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And really, I say the problem isn't just, the student loans. First of all, it's the need to take student loans because the cost of education is through the roof. And even if you look at a state university, in-state tuition, you're still north of $100,000+ for an in-state state university tuition, and that's a lot.
Right. And that brings up now, I mean, we have put one child through school and our second child is in school now, and that is the number. Those are the numbers that students like her have to pay. And so we have our own. We needed it.
We have our story about taking student loans,
and then we also have our kids' story who are currently in the middle of that, and students who have to make decisions. Their friends, and I think that that's a big deal. And so it's not just for you, it's for those who come after you. We have to have this conversation, and we have to make wise choices along the way, and that's why we're doing this.
And we won't even get into the out-of-state tuition conundrum, because our daughter, her first choice school was not where she's at.
So we're going to get into it for just a hot second.
Yeah, because the school she wanted to go to, and we're not gonna name names.
Are we not? I thought we.
I mean, look, she wanted to go to Michigan.
Yes,
she got in
the University of Michigan, my alma mater.
Right, she got into Michigan. She got into the business school, which is a feat all in itself. And they promptly said, "Okay, you will be paying $70,000 per year for tuition fees, room and board." Which I said, I might as well buy you a house.
Literally,
I buy you an investment right now of a home that you can have, and it will appreciate. Even though we believe in education, but this is ridiculous.
It is
$300,000 for an undergraduate degree,
and we know people who did it. I mean, we went to Admitted Students Day, and we know some young people who did that.
They are footing that bill, and I just don't think that's wisdom. And I think that's when you fast forward and you start to talk about these programs that are out there now. The current program, as it's set up, it will forgive up to $10,000 of debt, which on that mountain of student loan debt, it seems like nothing. But I think there's $140+ billion that's been set aside, because now that 10,000, it begins to add up into,
because there's so many students with these loans.
Yes.
So many graduates with these loans. So many people who went to school and didn't graduate with the loans, because some of them will be having theirs forgiven too. And that's up to, that $10,000 is up to $125,000 in income. So anybody over that is not getting that forgiveness. And then, if you got a Pell Grant, then you actually get $20,000 forgiven. And
right, which I had a Pell Grant, so I could have got up to the $20K. So I'm just put it out there. I was a hater. Okay.
Let's be honest.
I was a hater.
Why were you a hater, husband? Why were you a hater?
I was like, look, I paid my loans. I want my $20K back. Want my money back that I paid. But, God blessed us, and we were able to pay those loans off. And so I'm not going to be a hater, people. It was momentary. But I think, when you consider the cost of education and inflation and all the different things that are going on, people are struggling right now.
Yeah, they are. And I think a lot of people are having a hard time, especially with, after COVID. Let's just look at context. After COVID and the massive, job loss that people experience, or the change in their home situation due to that season, and then how business is different. And, lots has changed in our, business climate and the job market and all of that, in addition to inflation. And I think that a lot of people are hurting. So while there is this whole attitude for lots of folks, well, shoot, I didn't get mine, forgiven or paid for. Why should they get this type of help? um, we're in a challenging season right now. So I'm not saying that that's an excuse, and we're going to talk about why we don't think that that's an excuse. But times are a changing.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter where you are politically because this isn't a political issue at this point. People try to make it a political issue for whatever reason because people want to push their certain agendas, and that's not what we're talking about. We just believe that this is something that is available to people, and should you do it, if you can take advantage of it, absolutely take advantage of it. Because if it's 10,000 or if it's 20,000, it's going to put you closer to your overall goal of being debt free, building wealth, changing your family tree, enhancing your relationship.
Yeah.
Because we know those pressures and stresses can challenge relationships. So, we always say progress over perfection.
Yes.
And if it's 10,000 or 20,000, take that money and then go and, make positive momentum.
Maximize on that benefit. The other thing that, we really need to speak into is that the folks who are predominantly getting the forgiveness, and let's be clear, I'm just going to guess. I have seen reports that said about 20% of the population who actually has student loans will actually get some type of assistance or help due to all of the different ways that it's not just the forgiveness, but it's all the other different ways that this current administration is trying to provide some relief for student loan borrowers. So there's a few different ways that that's happening, not just in forgiveness. So somebody's going to get touched, like at least 20% of the population who has student loans will get touched in some way if they apply, like you said. But what I think is cool, and I am definitely in favor of, is that this is first of all, going to help those, people who are predominantly making less than 90K, around 80, 90K or less. And so the people who have the least, right? So, and I'm not saying that that's not a lot of money. I'm just saying that it is helping those. It's not helping the people who got $200,000.
You can pay your loans, is what the government is saying.
Right. And it's actually helping underrepresented groups more often than not, because Pell Grants, by and large, 70% of Pell Grants are going to underrepresented groups. And so in that regard, it is helping those who might not be able to get the education without these types of assistance, and then now not having the burden of that financial responsibility if they're able to do that. So I'm not sure that, I can't even begin to guess how many people are actually getting all of it forgiven, because 10 or 20,000 is not a lot. I mean, that's barely it's not even a year, right?
Well, we know people who have been impacted by that. They have benefited from this.
Yeah.
And so I know the impact that it had on some of their lives. And so, I think it's a great thing that's happening for them. But I start to think about like other ways to prevent the need for student loans.
Yeah.
And today, having had two kids that are going through college and some of the things that we had to do to help guide them, you have to consider the options. And going to a school like Michigan that was going to cost us $300,000 nearly in out-of-state tuition, to me, that just wasn't wisdom. And so we had to look at some of the in-state schools that were comparable, that were great schools, and they were a fraction of the cost. And because we were in-state residents, our daughters were able to get, full rides to school.
Now they earned it with all of their
of
the things. They had to have the grades, and they had to be
They had the test scores and the grades and all of that. It wasn't a gimme.
No,
and
not at
so
all.
Whenever someone wants to say that, it was because, no, it's because they were the top 10% of their class.
Absolutely.
It's because they had the grades, they had the test scores, and they did the work. And, I've told our girls over the years that scholarships are a reward for your hard work.
Absolutely.
And we were responsible. We saved along the way. We didn't save $300,000 for school.
No.
But, we saved to to help pay for school and ensure that they could get an education, because we do value education. But you have to begin to look at what your current situation and know your child or even yourself. What is the best scenario for you? Mm-hmm. Is it maybe I'm going to go to, a community college for the first couple of years and then transfer to a major institution where you will pay a fraction of the cost those first couple of years by going to a community college, taking all your courses there, and then transferring to a university and getting into, the more specific, the meat of your program or whatever it is you're going to study. And I think that's something that people really need to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had friends whose children have done that very thing. I've had clients whose children have done that very thing, either got an associate's degree or took their prereqs, like you mentioned, and then transferred to major universities. And it is literally 10%. If you have to pay out of pocket for a community college right around the corner, I mean, it can be $3,000 or $4,000 per year, which is
that's a big difference.
A fraction of even in-state tuition. And if you are a really great student, which is what the case was for these few students that I'm thinking of right now, they were great students. And so they didn't have to pay anything.
And they got scholarships from the community college.
That's right. And then you transfer. Matter of fact, one of these students is in law school right now. So not only did she graduate.
We're thinking about the same person.
Yeah, not only did she graduate from her undergrad, but she is now in a law school program. And so it was not a detriment at all for her to take that path. It saved money, and that's not the entire reason why that particular student went to the community college. But I will tell you, that is a relief when you can find a different path. And you also, for your grad program, had a different path for higher education as well.
Yeah, and I think I went to, I'm gonna go back to undergrad and I'll get to grad school, but even undergrad, I actually worked full time and I went to school full time. Now I don't recommend that to people.
But he was on his grind, on his hustle.
But I had to do what a brother had to do what he had to do.
And honestly, can I just say something? That was like sexy at the time. I was like, he is a grown man. Like
it was the uniform.
It was the yes, you had the FedEx uniform. You had,
I had responsibilities. I was out here handling my business.
You had a paycheck. And you were getting a degree.
Wait, we go back. I was standing on business back then, 10 toes.
And I was looking at that paper. I was like, oh, he's gonna be a hard worker. Honestly, I was like,
Wait. See, people, she was pocket checking me back then.
Now, I'm a smart woman. I'm just saying, I'm a smart woman. Okay,
it's all good.
It's been 25 years.
It's all good.
I'm just saying something worked.
Right. But I mean, I went to school full time, worked full time, and I worked at FedEx, and they offered some tuition assistance. I tapped into that. And I was able to minimize some of the loans I was paying as I went along. And so I really captured most of my student debt in the first couple of years when I was away at a different university. And when I came back, I was like, nope, I'm just going to pay as I go. I'm going to work and I'm going to do everything I can. And I made a decision after undergrad that I would not pay for graduate school. And so when we got married and we moved, I said, I'm going to wait until I can get an employer to pay for this. And it took me, I waited about 10 years to go back to school and get my MBA. But at that time, I worked for an employer that offered 100% tuition reimbursement. And so literally my entire graduate program was paid for by an employer. And because that employer, they had a requirement, you had to get certain grades, but I was an adult at that point. I was not about playing around.
Yeah, and that was the hardest year of our relationship, honestly, because
that 18 months was like, grueling.
It sucked. It sucked for our relationship, but we were committed, and we had little kids. You were working. It was a lot, and but in the end, we felt a relief when it was done, for sure. And it was a challenging time, but it was worth it because honestly, your career took off. You catapulted and utilized that to your advantage, which is what.
Absolutely.
And you were methodical, strategic in, the way that you were approaching your career after that. And so I definitely think it was worth it. I will say, what's interesting, you said earlier that we know people who had forgiveness. I have to share, like, I saw my mother graduate twice. I saw her graduate. It took her a long time to finish her undergrad degree because it was all on her. She had no assistance.
Yep.
And I was young.
It was the slow road.
It was a slow road, but I saw her graduate with her bachelor's degree, and that was a really proud moment. Even as a young person, I mean, I was less than 10 years old when I saw her graduate, and then I also saw her graduate with her master's degree, and you were there.
That's because we graduated on the same day. I graduated with an undergrad degree, and she graduated with a master's degree.
From the same university.
Which was crazy.
And we had just started dating, and so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go find my two people. But my mother did experience some relief from the student loan forgiveness. She was on a payment plan. Here's the thing about these programs, and I'm sure a lot of people are really well versed in their own student loans, but if you make all of your payments on time as agreed for a series of months, meaning really years.
Yes.
And it's like 20 years, then they will pay it for you, pay it off. They will forgive the rest of it. And so my mother experienced that, which is amazing. So like I know, and I'm thankful that she was able to have that relief. But it really shouldn't take 20 years. Like that's the hard part about all of this is that, like you said, education is so expensive that we're taking on mortgages for our education. We're taking on the equivalent of what a mortgage would be. I'm seeing, people who are teachers who have over $100,000 in debt. I'm seeing, people who in their profession don't even make that dollar amount that they have in their student loans per year. And that's scary, sad, and tragic, in my opinion.
That's part of where you got to count the costs. If you are going into a profession or a field, sometimes, let's be honest, some fields need to be paid more. I believe that.
Teachers need to be paid more, period.
Yes. Down. And I was, I didn't tell you this. I was having a conversation with our daughter, and I say a conversation, but it was all over text.
Oh yeah.
Because I saw something that came up on the news, and it was showing like the starting salaries of teachers in our local area, and I took a picture of it and I texted it to her. I was like, "Look at what teachers, new teachers make in our area," because she was complaining about some things that she didn't like that was going on with her job, and I was like, you still need to have a point of perspective and be grateful because you make significantly more than a new teacher and you're only a couple years out of college.
Yeah.
And she was like, wow, this is horrendous. And I was like, yes, it is.
It's good to have perspective.
Yes, perspective can change the way you look at things. And so I just, was telling her that, and she, thought about it differently. But when you're going into a field, I think part of what you have to do is count the cost as well. Mm-hmm. Because if you're going to take out $100,000 in loans and you know that your income earning potential is, like 50 grand, it's like, okay, well, you already have a deficit and you haven't, got rent, food, clothing, shelter, transportation yet on that 50 grand salary. So sometimes you have to count the costs. And I think that's when you have to be a little more flexible in how you go about securing that education. It could be like we talked about, go to a community college for a little while, then transfer. And I think that's a good idea because especially with some kids who college isn't for everyone. And some people may
Agreed.
need to go to a smaller, community college because they can learn better in those environments.
Or a vocational school.
Absolutely. I pay plumbers all the time,
Oh, we know 6-figure income earning,
Right.
electricians, plumbers, people. I
There
mean,
is
come on now,
nothing
beauticians.
there is nothing wrong with that.
We need those in our life. We need those people in our life, and we need to pay them well, and we need to respect the job that they do, because frankly, we're not going to do all those jobs. Everybody's not doing them.
I was joking with my barber. I was like, must be nice being a barber driving Cadillac Lyrics. Like got nice Cadillac electric cars. And he was like, come on, man. But the whole point is that he makes a good income by, and it's by all account a trade.
Right. And so the trades are important. Some folks need to go to the military. That is their path. Some people do the community college. Some people wait. You could wait for your undergrad degree. You could go into your career, start a job, and be specific about going to a company that will actually pay for you to get reimbursed, on your education. And sometimes the cost, of course, is that you have to stick with that company for
a couple of years.
But that's a small price to pay. They're already paying you.
Right.
And you just stick with them for a couple of years in order to just make good, if you will, on having gotten that education paid for by them. I love it. And there's now companies that are really committed to ensuring that their employees do not have to pay for their education. So, you can begin to look those places out and seek them out to find out who's doing that. Because I think that would be a good path for some folks right now too.
Look, I'm putting my make it or worth it out there early. Count the costs.
Yeah.
Because that may change your whole decision-making process.
Yeah.
And if you count the cost and you realize that this is not fictitious money, you're going to do some things differently. And don't take what you don't need.
Okay, that's mine. Because listen, this is a soapbox for me, because I don't want only the parents and only the children to be responsible for this decision. Because I think that when you're going to a school and you have counselors and you have people who are helping you figure out your path for your career and the degree that you're going to get, or the financial aid office at these universities, right? These people, if they're prepared and they are educated on what these potential career paths could be, they can help you to see this is not a good use of your degree path. Like, let me make sure that we talk about what you are taking on in loans. And I think not that they can tell you what to do or not to do, but I think there's an analysis that can happen. What would it take to finish school in terms of how much in loans would you be taking? What is that total amount? What is that monthly payment? Is that commensurate with the type of job, career path, annual income that you are going to have? I think we need to project that. And it would be lovely if in the educational arena, if some of these people would help these students think more long term. And because it bothers me, because these kids can actually, you're 18 years old and you can sign on the dotted line for your own loans. Their brains are not fully formed. This is not always a good idea to leave this fully in their hands. And so we need our community, more than just the student, more than just the parent, and more than just the school. We need everybody.
Everybody needs to get involved and get engaged with the process.
And I mean, the other thing is, I'm really concerned that in an effort to offset this forgiveness, inflation happens everywhere, but I'm concerned that the price of education is going to, it's going to go up, but at what rate will it go up? I'm concerned about what this is going to look for instance, our grandkids later on. We don't have none right now, but when we do, what that looks like, because if things are the way that they are right now.
And everybody's going to pay a little bit more taxes because, this money isn't free. They're not just printing money to pay this, but
we're going into debt for it, and it as a nation.
Yeah,
and
but I think the point I was I was trying to make is that sometimes when you take that loan, there's overages and people just take that and they live off that money. And when I say don't take what you don't need,
yes,
take the exact amount to pay for school and figure the other stuff out.
I can't tell you how many times I have talked to people in my coaching practice where they could have gone to school with less loans, but they wanted to feel comfortable. They
took the overage.
They were not trying to be on struggle bus. Yes. So they took all of the loans that they could get. And they in school they were like, "Oh, it's going to be fine. When I get out, it'll be fine. I'll make enough money." And it's never as it seems when it comes to debt.
And I think the onus needs to be sometimes on the universities, like you said, to help them navigate that. Because if the cost of attendance is, $20,000 and they owe $15,000, then don't give them a $20,000 loan. Give them a loan for the amount that is required, not the overages, because people will take that. And I know I did it. When I went and I went to the registrar's office and I signed for my student loan, and they took their money out and they said, "Oh, you've got $900 left over." I was like, "Guess who's eating good tonight? Guess who's getting some fresh shoes this weekend?"
See?
But I didn't know, and I think that's part of the onus with the university to help guide some of these students, to help them not incur more debt than they need to. Mm-hmm. Then they have to rely on the programs like the student loan forgiveness program to bail them out of it.
Yeah.
And so, look, I said people I was a hater, but I'm not going to hate on the program. If you can take advantage of it, take advantage of it. And if it can help spring you forward to get to the end point and the finish line, then get there.
I agree with that. And I also understand and empathize with those who wish that they were recipients of this. I get.
I still feel that way.
Yeah.
And run me my coin.
It would be nice. Some people might. So here's the deal. I think take advantage of as much as you can. So if you can get the loan forgiveness, awesome, go for it.
If Joe Biden sent me a check for $20,000, I'd be like, "All right, old Smokey Joe." Thank you.
So, and if I could have been able to be a recipient, I would have tried as well. So I'm not, definitely in today. Right. If I were a graduate today, I'd be like, "Hey, can I?"
Here, well, let me back up. Let me put some respect on his name. If President Biden,
there you go,
sent me a check for $20,000, I'd be like, "Thank you, Mr. President."
Right. So you addressed your make it worth it. I want to address mine.
Let's do it.
The biggest thing to me is school choice. Be wise in school choice. Yes. And we shared some of that, and I can reiterate, it's, do you go to a community college? Do you go to a state school? Is college the next level for your child right now, or yourself? Can a company pay for it? Again, this is school choice. I think these are things that we have to consider ahead of time. I think it's important to be forward thinking, because it doesn't matter what loan forgiveness program it is. The root cause is not being solved by throwing money at it to forgive the loan. The problems lie in the cost of college, the choices that we're making if we don't have all of the funds, right? And that's the school choice, the financial choices that, if we're taking all the money. And so, let's address our own root issue and make certain that we're making good choices from the beginning, so that in the end, we don't need any type of government assistance to feel better about what we already did.
I enjoyed this conversation.
This was good, baby.
Yeah, this was a good convo. So
yeah,
we hope you guys take some nuggets from this and apply it to your situation, and count the costs and make wise choices.
Absolutely. So I can't wait to get on the airwaves with you again next time, honey.
So until next time,
we're out.
Thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all of your support, so be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at For Better and Worth.
And sign up to receive our free guide, The 7 Reasons Your Money Relationship Isn't Working with Your Partner, on forbetterandworth.com.
Until next time, we're out of here.